Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the massive internal restructuring your brain undergoes the second you cross into your fourth decade. This is a biological pivot, guys. It's incredibly complex, it's biologically demanding, and honestly, understanding it, that's your absolute key to mastering your mental performance for the rest of your life. Let's get into it.
So, why exactly does your brain feel so different at 40? Have you noticed that subtle little lag in processing lately? Or maybe a sudden desperate need to put literally everything in a digital calendar? We've all had that classic moment, right? You walk into a room and just completely forget why you're even in there. Or a word gets stuck right on the tip of your tongue. You're definitely not imagining things. And no, it's not just you being overworked.
It usually starts with something small. A misplaced set of keys, momentarily blanking on a name, or just a slight lag when you're trying to process something really complex. What feels like just, having a busy, distracted life is actually the very first outward echo of your brain shifting gears. It's moving away from that expansive, youthful growth phase and entering a period of highly complex maintenance. So let's look at Section 1, the hardware downgrade, why the engine starts to slow down. Okay, here's a pretty sobering reality for you. After 40, your actual brain volume decreases by about 5% per decade. And it's happening specifically in the prefrontal cortex, which is basically your executive suite for decision-making, and the hippocampus, your gateway for new memories. But, it's not just about losing volume. It's about the wiring itself. Think about myelin. This is the fatty insulation that wraps around the axons of your neurons to speed up electrical signals. Well, as you cross into your 40s, this insulation literally starts to fray. It gets brittle. And because those wires are frayed, your electrical signals are arriving just milliseconds later than they used to. It creates this noticeable cognitive friction, where your mind's retrieval mechanism is just slightly lagging behind your actual thoughts. Now, to really put this into perspective, consider the sheer scale of the energy crisis happening inside your head. 20%. Your brain hogs 20% of your body's total glucose and oxygen, even though it makes up a measly 2% of your body weight. That is a massive energy draw. And right around age 40, your brain's ability to actually metabolize that glucose efficiently, that begins to decline. Let's break down what this metabolic drag actually looks like on a cellular level. Inside your brain cells, your mitochondria, think of these as your tiny cellular power plants, they start producing less ATP, which is basically raw energy. And at the exact same time, they start generating more reactive oxygen species. You probably know those better as free radicals. This triggers oxidative stress, which, get this, actually damages the power plants themselves. It's a vicious cycle. The result is that your brain is essentially running on a fuel deficit. No wonder intense focus feels so incredibly draining now. You aren't just feeling tired, your brain is quite literally rationing its energy. And to make matters a bit more complicated, that energy crisis is compounded by something called inflammaging. It's exactly what it sounds like, a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation where hyperreactive immune cells start damaging the surrounding neurons. See, you have these specialized cells in your brain called microglia. Usually they act like friendly little gardeners, protecting things and pruning away weak synapses. But after 40, they get sort of primed. They shift into this hyperreactive state and ignite a silent fire of inflammation that really hinders your neuroplasticity. Moving on to Section 2, the cleanup crisis, when the night shift struggles. Now, you don't have a normal lymphatic system up in your brain. Instead, you have the glymphatic system. This is your brain's highly specialized waste clearance pathway, and its whole job is to literally wash away toxic proteins while you're in deep sleep. But because our deep, slow-wave sleep naturally starts to decrease after we hit 40, this system just can't wash away metabolic trash, like amyloid beta and tau proteins, as efficiently as it used to. Basically, when the night shift struggles, the garbage piles up. And that leads directly to that heavy feeling of brain fog we all hate. We're also facing this midlife chemical shift. It's really a perfect storm of chemical recalibrations. Take dopamine, for example. Your dopamine receptor density actually drops about 10% per decade. That makes it noticeably harder to just filter out background distractions. Then you've got hormones, drastic estrogen fluctuations in women, gradual testosterone declines in men. These lead straight to memory lapses, mood shifts, and even changes in how we handle spatial reasoning. And to top it all off, the blood-brain barrier itself. Its tight junctions begin to loosen up, allowing systemic toxins to just sort of seep right in.
Your brain is literally being forced to recalibrate on the fly here.
All right, on to section 3, the bilateral upgrade, the paradigm shift of the middle-aged mind.
Okay, I know we've covered a lot of seemingly bad news so far, but wait. Here is the absolute plot twist of human biology. Your brain is not just declining. No, it's actually performing an astonishing biological adaptation to save itself. Let me introduce you to a concept called HARLD, which stands for hemispheric asymmetry reduction in older adults. To bypass all that aging hardware we just talked about, your brain upgrades from a single processor to a dual processor system. It is quite literally rewiring itself to recruit areas from both hemispheres to solve problems. A younger brain, it would only use one hemisphere for the exact same task.
So what you're experiencing is this massive, incredible trade-off. When we compare the 20-year-old brain to the 40-plus brain, you can see you're basically trading raw, lateralized speed for profoundly integrated wisdom and bilateral synthesis. The younger brain is highly specialized for rapid computation. It's super fast. But the older brain, it throws way more neural manpower at every single problem, utilizing fully integrated comprehensive synthesis.
This brings us to section 4, the software upgrade, shifting gears to a new intelligence. Right now, you are undergoing what experts call the great crossover. Yes, your fluid intelligence, which is your ability to solve brand new problems and rapidly process information, is on a slow descent. But look at your crystallized intelligence. Your accumulated knowledge, your vocabulary, your pattern recognition, that is reaching its absolute zenith. So honestly, you aren't losing your mind, you're just gaining a massive comprehensive library. And as we all know, a library requires an entirely different kind of management than a high-speed data stream.
And part of that new management style is deeply emotional. It's driven by something called the positivity bias. As we age, our amygdala's activation to negative stimuli actually starts to decrease, while its activation to positive stimuli increases. Crazy, right? At the exact same time, your prefrontal cortex finally masters the art of emotional regulation. The end result here is tempered resilience and true emotional maturity. Thanks to this software upgrade, your brain naturally begins to prioritize positive information, offering you an emotional equilibrium that is literally biologically impossible for a teenager to achieve.
Finally, section 5, the new operating manual, taking agency over your neural scaffolding.
Okay, so we have this newly upgraded, deeply wise, but admittedly slightly slower machine. Because the stakes are exponentially higher for us now, you need to actively build what's known as your cognitive reserve. Think of this as your brain's biological savings account. It's a robust buffer of redundant neural connections that you build up through continuous learning and smart lifestyle choices. Honestly, this reserve is your ultimate victory over aging. A person with a high cognitive reserve can actually have physical hardware degradation in their brain, but show absolutely zero cognitive decline in their day-to-day life. But, and this is a big but, building it requires deliberate biological maintenance.
Let's see how this translates into a real-world lifestyle action plan. First up, protect your deep sleep. You absolutely have to empower that glymphatic clearance to wash away the night's toxins. Second, embrace fasting or low glycemic diets. This triggers mitophagy, which cleans out those damaged mitochondria we talked about and replaces them with highly efficient brand new ones. Third, actively seek out discomfort and novelty. Learning hard, new things forces hippocampal neurogenesis. You are literally growing new neurons. And fourth, nurture your social bonds. Real human connection stimulates oxytocin and BDNF, which are basically act like miracle grow for your brain. By systematically acting on these 4 pillars, you're giving your brain the exact environment it needs to thrive as a high-performance masterpiece.
Which leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question. How are you going to build your brain scaffolding today? Are you just going to let the hardware degrade, or will you actively step up and design the most cognitively powerful years of your life? Listen, that slight lag you might be feeling, it isn't a failure at all. It's just the small price you pay for a brain that is far, far more capable of understanding the deep nuances of the human experience. The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.